It's been more than a month since the four men disappeared off the Queensland coast when their yacht Rock and Robin sank on a voyage to Noumea. With the help of public donations, the families of Grant and Robert Wiltshire, Jeffrey Smith and Andrew Young have conducted their own private search. But with resources running low and the chances of finding them diminishing, the families decided on Tuesday to search just one last time. Yesterday, their private plane spotted a yellow object believed to be a raft on Chesterfield Reef, 1,300 kilometres east of Townsville. This morning, the official search for the men was resumed, with a federal sea safety plane sent to the area. But at 9:15, the families received the sad word that the object was a yellow garbage bin floating in the water. The craft will do a sweep of the area before returning to Townsville. The families say if nothing is found within the next few days, they will give up.
Went away for a minute and be back soon, so no worries. Okay. Yeah, thanks very much.
Chief Inspector Ian Park was commander of the disaster situation on December 28. In the stand today, he had nothing but praise for all the rescue personnel involved. I have the highest admiration for every person that assisted in this operation. Many people showed a great deal of courage, and strangers worked as teammates to obtain a common goal. He said he's confident rescue services will work in harmony if another tragedy ever occurs. His evidence comes on the tail of yesterday's peace gesture to police from the New South Wales Fire Brigade. The last of the firefighters took the stand again today. Under cross-examination, District Officer Norm Parker agreed that despite frustrations, the rescue operation was a success. He said he found it particularly offensive that details of a fire brigade debriefing were revealed to the public. It was regrettable, he said. In other evidence today, the court heard special care was taken to recover cash still in the ruins of the Workers' Club. More than $100,000 was found, but $20,000, mostly poker machine change, was lost in the rubble. More than 50 witnesses have given evidence to this inquiry. One more matter remains, with the coroner to consider a possible 13th earthquake death. On Monday, he'll hear evidence relating to an elderly woman who collapsed with a brain hemorrhage when the quake struck. Until now, she's not been included in the official death toll. Leslie Robinson for NBN News.
Police were carrying out similar awareness campaigns across the district and the state today, but they made a special effort at Mayfield, where the combination of elderly residents and heavy traffic on the Maitland Road is a recipe for tragedy. Those taking their chances by weaving through the traffic were met by police officers, giving out only pamphlets and a gentle chiding.
Look, take this pamphlet. All it does is it explains to you the 12 points that could possibly endanger your life as you're walking across the road. And there's a bookmark for it. You're all right. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Police in the Newcastle district paid particular attention to the elderly, a group they say who are overrepresented in the accident statistics.
Well, over the last 3 years, our local statistics have proven that 2/3 of the pedestrians killed on the roads have been over the age of 60. And so there's certainly an area we're targeting.
While crossing the road anywhere has its own hazards, police say one of the real danger areas is, surprisingly, at crossings controlled by lights.
About 1/3 of the people killed were at a traffic facility such as a crossing or a light. So there we would emphasise as well that even though they are at a pedestrian facility, still exercise caution and still look around. Make sure that the car driver has seen you before you start to cross.
Well, our Friday night look at sport this week is at the International Sports Centre on the eve of the big clash between North Sydney and the Newcastle Knights. Of course, both teams vying for a spot in the semi-finals, and this game crucial to both. We'll talk to Sam Stewart in just a moment, but of course the big event this week was Wimbledon 1990, and it came down to a battle between Boris Becker and Stefan Edberg.
The Swede wasn't interested in a slugging match. He was going to make the big West German bend his back. It was a tactic Edberg repeated time after time. In essence, the first two sets became the ultimate thinking person's tennis match.
Look at that little run.
But dramatically, Edberg went off the boil as Boris tried to get a foothold in the match. What seemed an Edberg whitewash had developed into a dour struggle.
Excellent.
Into the fifth, it was a battle of wills.
And he's got him. He drew
Edberg in front 5-4. After a nervous first serve, he brings up match point.
What a volley.
Becker saved one match point, but Edberg had one more up his sleeve.
And he went to the forehand, and it's wide.
Well, Stefan Edberg there triumphing over Boris Becker in 5 brilliant sets, and he certainly has deserved his second Wimbledon title. But the crowning glory of Wimbledon 1990, from my point of view, was the performance by Martina Navratilova in wrapping up her 9th Wimbledon title and becoming the only lady ever to win 9 titles. But she's copped some criticism for her off-court behaviour.
It was the victory scenes on centre court just days ago which so enraged Mrs. Court. The sight of the 9-times Wimbledon champ hugging her pal Judy Nelson was not the sort of thing blossoming young female players should see.
I just think that our children of today that are exposed to it, I think it's very, very sad.
A 3-times Wimbledon winner, now mother of 4 and devout Christian, Mrs. Court claims Martina was influenced into a gay lifestyle during her early days on the circuit.
I think it's very sad that it's been there for many years, and I think a lot of the younger ones that come into the game are led astray. I know if I had a daughter going on tour, I'd want to be there. Without naming names, Mrs. Court claims there's a well-known group of gay and bisexual players on the tour who frighten younger players. Argentinian ace Gabriela Sabatini once reportedly said she was terrified, especially of the changing rooms. The outburst has caused a furore in London. The tabloids are having a field day. There's no suggestion at the All England Tennis Club, of course, that the Queen of Wimbledon won't be invited back again next year. As one of the game's biggest draw cards, here, Martina Navratilova can do no wrong. Holidaying with Martina in the Caribbean, Judy Nelson has hit back. Who is Margaret Court to judge? Perhaps she's a saint.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, they can throw everything they like at Martina Navratilova. It's got absolutely nothing to do with her tennis ability. She has proved once and for all that she is one of the greatest women's tennis player of all time. What she does off the court is her business. Let's leave it there at that. And of course, as I mentioned at the start of our sports segment tonight, the big battle this weekend is between North Sydney and the Newcastle Knights. Joining me now is Sam Stewart, who finds himself back in first grade. And Sam, if ever there was an important game, this one's it.
Yes, the last few weeks have been very important, and North Sydney on Sunday, it's a biggie for us, another must for us, and I suppose it's a must for them. They'll be approaching the game in the same fashion we're approaching the game. 2 points from here is going to go a long way to securing a top 5 spot, which is only 7 games away.
Of course, Mark Sargent's out of the side, but the Ford pack still looks very formidable indeed.
Yes, well, Peter Johnson comes back into the side after 2 weeks off. He's been training fairly well at the end of the weekend. He's fairly confident that his ankle will get through the game all right. So we're lucky that he's sort of filled in, just come back when Mark's had his injury. And of course, Paul Harrigan starts again in reserve grade. And he'll be a handy person to have come the end of the game. So,
Knights for a victory?
Oh, definitely. Sort of 1 point would be nice, of course. But the last couple of games, and we've come away 1-1. Norths have won 1 game, we've won 1 game, so we're looking to make it 3-1 to us, or 2-1 to us, sorry.
Ironical last week when we spoke on Newsnight that we said that you'd want to get into the game as quickly as possible. It unfortunately was at the expense of an injury to Mark Sargent. You'd like to get into the game as soon as you can this week, but with everyone intact.
Yes, sort of 5 minutes into the game with Sarge sort of going down with his ankle. I didn't mind where I've played prop. I'm not sort of fancy myself as a prop, of course, but I enjoyed being part of the team and obviously part of the team's win, and hopefully it's the same thing this weekend.
Sam, all the very best.
Thank you very much.
OK, Sam Stewart talking rugby league there, and that's our afternoon look at Newsnight this week. Back with more Newsnight in just a moment.
first sort of 5 minutes into the game with Sarge sort of going down with his ankle, I didn't mind where I played. Prop, I'm not sort of fancy myself as a prop, of course, but I enjoyed being part of the team and obviously part of the team's win, and hopefully it's the same thing this weekend.
Sam, all the very best.
Thank you very much.
OK, Sam Stewart talking rugby league there, and that's our afternoon look at Newsnight this week. Back with more Newsnight in just a moment. With the 2 competition points vital to the night's semi-final hopes, the forwards came out fired up after a chat from former Magpie coach Roy Masters and ripped Norths apart.
They were brutal yesterday. It was fantastic. Butterfield, Glanville, Johnston, they just belted them. It was fantastic.
Once the forwards had shattered the Bears, the backs took over to dominate the match.
Yeah, the backs showed yesterday that we do have some skill, which a lot of people don't credit us for, but the forwards made our job a lot easier.
Jeff Doyle's season has been one of ups and downs, but in the past few weeks, the strapping centre has put it all together.
Yeah, I'm very happy with my form at the moment. Also helps when your side's going particularly well, but yeah, since that broken cheekbone, I've come back and I'm pretty happy with the way I'm playing.
1 point out of 5th spot, and the team which has the Knights' position in the 5 is Manly, and that's the battle this Saturday at the International Sports Centre. After yesterday's drubbing of Balmain, Manly are going to be tough to beat.
It's going to be a big game. It's going to be a very tough game. There's going to be a huge crowd. We actually had plenty of supporters there yesterday at North Sydney, which was fantastic, and I'm looking forward to seeing all those supporters again, another probably 20,000 odd on Saturday.
Jeff, you really must think now that the semi-finals are well within your grasp.
Yeah, we try to take it week to week, but it's hard not to look ahead. We have 6 games left, 3 of them at home, and I think if we win 4 of those games, we're in the semi-finals, and it's a distinct possibility.
The Hired Man by Novocastrian Productions has been in rehearsal since April. Last night, the 50-strong cast were adding the finishing touches to the performance. The musical was written by Melvyn Bragg and is set in the county of Cumbria in England from 1898 to 1920. Its characters begin as land labourers, but their lives change as they become colliery workers and then as World War I approaches. As a background to the working class tradition, the stationary set incorporates war scenes, a country landscape and even a mine shaft and a cave-in. The play combines music and dialogue, and with subject matter so familiar to the hunter, it should attract an appreciative audience.
Rachel is literally putting her feet up, taking no chances with a mysterious pain in her right foot.
I think it's a bruise, and I woke up one morning, I usually go for a run, and it's only for the first 10 minutes I can't really run on it, and after that it just goes away, and then it comes back again in the evenings.
Rachel was injured while playing at Wimbledon recently, where she made it through to the second round, only to be beaten by Holland's Brenda Schultz. But the bruising seems to be more of a pain in the neck than her foot. In a Japanese tournament last week, she beat number 8 player in the world, Mary Jo Fernandez, Rachel's first top 10 victory. The 18-year-old has climbed the rating polls dramatically since last season. She is now rated number 46 in the world and is Australia's number 1 woman player.
It's unbelievable. When the rankings came out, my coach was the first one to come up and congratulate me on being number 1 in Australia, and just till now I've just had a good think about it, and it's been really great, a good effort for me to achieve that.
Rachel will rest for 2 days at a Merriweather home before heading off to America, representing Australia in the Federation Cup.
It's a football promoter's dream, the hometown battlers to clash with a team everybody loves to hate in a desperate bid to secure a place in the final five. On a high after last weekend's inspiring victory over Norths, the Newcastle Knights are in 6th spot. Victory on Saturday would see them in the 5 and closer than they've ever been to a premiership. Their opponents, the Manly Sea Eagles, too played devastating football last weekend. They're 1 point ahead in 5th place and they won't want to give that berth up easily. And it seems everybody wants to be there. Yesterday, even before the ticket sales office opened at the ISC, a crowd was at the gates waiting, and there were more queues again today.
Well, we're looking at 30,000. The record's 30,200 against the Broncos in the first year of our entry into the Winfield Cup. Wally Lewis, of course, the big draw card there. In the rain, 30,200. I think with given good weather and the week shaping well, we could get up to 30,000 despite the Saturday engagement.
It's just the latest chapter in what's been a fairy tale rise to superstar status for the Knights. Only 3 seasons in the competition, they've already secured more business support than their promoters could ever have wished for. The 131 corporate boxes at the ground are full every week. A long waiting list has sparked plans to build more. But while that support is crucial, it's really up to the 13 men who will run on this Saturday to decide the team's destiny. Marketing manager Lee Morn believes they will deliver the goods.
Already we've been hearing things right throughout the season. Oh yeah, Newcastle are near the 5, so what? This week, since the weekend, since our battering of North and our great football, people in Sydney are starting to take Newcastle seriously as a final 5 contender. And Macca won't let them get overconfident, but motivation against Manly is easy. They're a love-hate team. Their own fans love them, everyone else hates them. And there'll be plenty of boos as they run out here on Saturday, and plenty of bruises out there.
When you look at the way coal is loaded from Newcastle Harbour, you see a classic model of how Australia's waterfront should be reformed. A major enterprise agreement has been reached between waterside unions and the owners of Newcastle's coal loaders, which will see massive boosts in labour productivity. The agreement follows at least 3 months of intensive negotiations, which it's hoped will end the trademark demarcation disputes of the past. Now the federal government is pushing for reforms in the way the waterfront is serviced by rail, road and communications.
That the potential for improvement in efficiency is greater between the factory gate, farm gate and mine site on the waterfront than it is on the waterfront itself.
Peter Morris is chairman of the Transport, Communication and Infrastructure Committee, which has announced a formal inquiry into work practices and agreements. Speaking at the Newcastle Businessmen's Club today, Mr Morris highlighted specific areas of concern.
Why is it the waterfront can work 21 hours a day, 7 days a week, but the consignees and the consignors might only work Monday to Friday, 10 hours a day? Why this mismatch in operational hours? Why the delays in goods arriving in a port and documentation not being there for the collection of the goods?
But there was evidence today that the reform process is a long and troubled one. Work at the Newcastle grain terminal is at a standstill after a ban was placed on loading by the Waterside Workers Federation. The manning issue is due to be heard in the Industrial Relations Commission tomorrow morning. John Church, NBN News. Police and customs officers were called to this address on the outskirts of Morisset. Owner Kerry Smith had recently moved into the house and few locals would even be aware that his sheds contained rare, native and exotic birds worth thousands of dollars. Mr Smith was in Sydney yesterday when thieves raided the property, stealing 4 pairs of birds, some the product of 15 years of intensive breeding programs. He says the smugglers ignored the brightly coloured but less expensive birds.
They've walked in amongst rare Australian species like black cockatoos and things like this, foreign parrots, and the birds that they've taken, because they're mutations outwardly to the normal eye, you just wouldn't recognise what they are, so they knew exactly what they were going for.
Two of the birds, imported plumhead parrots, are worth more than $2,500. The other 6 crossbred galahs are similar to these, but with white instead of grey wings and red eyes instead of the more familiar darker colouring. Together, they're worth more than $9,000. Because they are so unique, the birds are unlikely to find a buyer in Australia. But for overseas collectors willing to pay up to 3 times the market price for an illegally exported bird, there are unlikely to be any questions. Smugglers will go to great lengths to spirit birds and other native animals out of the country. Often the cruel concealment results in the deaths of some of the animals, but the black market rewards are great. This is the second theft in the Hunter this year. About 50 native birds were taken from the Blackbutt Nature Reserve in New Lambton.
There's a large market overseas for Australian birds and reptiles. We're targeting the airports and the shipping lanes. Also, information has been sent to overseas agencies that will help us in our inquiries.
In the meantime, Kerry Smith is taking no chances with his remaining aviary. He says he'll sell the other birds to breeders with more security systems to thwart the smugglers. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
An auto wreckers has stood on this 3-hectare site fronting the Pacific Highway for 50 years. For the last 30, well before planning controls came into force, it's been owned by Mr Archie Vitadello. According to member for Charlestown Richard Face, adjoining landowners have complained to him for years about the eyesore, plus their fears that rats and snakes from the site could invade their properties. Last March he raised the matter in Parliament.
The Minister, as a result of my speech in the Parliament, has said there are inadequacies in the law, and of course what flows from that is quite horrendous. In other words, councils will find themselves in a position that if people want to leave a mess in any yard, in any place, they have difficulty in doing anything about it at present.
2 years ago, Lake Macquarie Council served notice on the yard to undertake a clean-up. But now it faces a dilemma because of legal complexities, finding itself without the power to stop the yard operating and with difficulty in enforcing the clean-up. Mr Vitadello said he was not available to make any comment to us today, but Minister for Planning and Local Government David Hay said operations on this site could have repercussions for the rest of the state. The matter will now be examined as part of a current review of the Local Government Act. In the meantime, Lake Macquarie Council is planning further action.
Unfortunately, the only thing left that we can do is a repetition of what we did in the first place, and that's to get him to court and issue notices to see if the courts can effectively keep us in good stead so we can follow through.
How do you know that this is going to be more effective than what you did 2 years ago?
Well, we don't know. The only thing we can do is go down the same course until the government changes the Local Government Act and issues more powers to councils.
The council have certain powers, and even if the Local Government Act was to be amended tomorrow, that isn't going to overcome the problem, and it's a real bucket of worms. You couldn't put it in any other way.